Folks, welcome back. My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments. You guys have been blowing me up in the last 48 hours about a couple news topics happening. One, which we're going to cover today, the Unfulfilled Desires, the Mirage Reserve List card from the Cool Approved Kids YouTube channel. And then we're going to, in another video, we'll get to the whole Pokemon scandal with the massive thing and kind of the lulls that are going on and the sad thing, the millions of dollars being lost. We'll get to that in another video, but I mean, that whole Pokemon thing's just kind of, I mean, it's funny and sad at the same time, but it's kind of like, what'd you think was going to happen? I mean, really? Anyways, at least, did CGC grade those? They gave it like an 11? So today we're talking about Unfulfilled Desires. This is a Mirage Reserve List card, pretty much where you can pump and dump your library and just draw and discard like crazy. Obviously, we have another YouTube channel, one of the big boys in the approved Magic the Gathering world, also known as the Cool Kids. I've always wanted to be a cool kid, but I'm just never going to be cool enough to be a part of the approved where they retina scan you and you're in the in crowd. So they made a video about some of the new synergy with some probably the new commander deck or new standard card with 8th or something. And yeah, we see a massive swing on Unfulfilled Desires. So, Mirage card. It is a rare. It's reserve list, late 90s, maybe a $1 to $5 card that's now probably in probably $20 to $30 range. I'm going to give you all my opinion. You guys, first full disclosure. You guys know how much I love Mirage. Mirage and Visions is one of my all-time favorite eras of Magic the Gathering, next to the early days of probably like an Urza's Block, or maybe like Weatherlight or something. But understand a few things. There are a lot of copies of this in the world. This is a card that this is not a scarce card. Okay? Do not underestimate how many of these are floating around in bulk and kind of in Mirage bins, in bulk collections and things like that. There's been a couple times in the last 10 years where this card has resurfaced and we've had some sort of $1 to $5 price point starting, pops to 10 to 15, and then of course over the next 2 years we retrace back down and everybody loses interest. This is probably I think the third or fourth time Unfulfilled Desires has done this particular behavioral pattern. Now, as we saw with like Kaladesh. Wizards made the name Kaladesh racist and taboo and we're all terrible human beings. Rudy, I'm already terrible, so I'm double terrible. So I'm actually 2 negatives. I'm a positive. Positive Rudy is here to tell you what when you see a buyout or you see a market swing, look at Kaladesh. It was a $300 box, swung to $1,000. So many people were hoarding it. So many evil Rudy closet investors. Everything starts coming to market. The demand is not enough to sustain. And of course, as the spike to 1,000 on Kaladesh goes back to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I think now it's probably what? $450, $500 a box. Again, still 30, 40% higher than where it was before the Kaladesh drama happened. We were all terrible humans. So it never goes back to the previous low, but be aware, there is no way Unfulfilled Desires is going to stay in mint condition, a $30 to $50 card. And in dog bites, heavy, moderate play condition, it's not going to stay $25, $30 a card. The type of event we have here is a very short-term Timmy event. Now, longer term, like the Kaladesh situation, is actually more bullish because we have long-term factual data with Kaladesh that the company is never going to say, you know what? I think you're all racist, terrible humans, and Kaladesh is banned. We're going to reverse that. Nobody's racist anymore. Like, that doesn't happen in our culture. So, in the Kaladesh situation, you have a higher probability of sustaining and kind of building on that into the next 5 to 10 years. On Unfulfilled Desires situation, where it's a single card versus sealed product, so again, sealed product, any of the cards within the basket can also affect it, but on a single card that's only being affected, which I guess by commander or eternal format, but overall it's being impacted by a new card from a new standard set or a new commander set that's making people excited in the moment. So this type of thing will pass. And when it passes, I expect to retrace back to, I don't think it goes back to like $1, $2, $3, but I think this goes back to like $5. Why? Because there's just a lot of copies out there. And this is a short-term event. In 6 months from now, we're going to have 4 or 5 more Magic sets released, including Final Fantasy and all these other crazy things are going to happen. New Tarkir sets and all that. No one's going to be like, man, I still need to buy, I need to buy 4 more unfulfilled desires. Like, it's just not going to happen. So, full disclosure on this. I probably have 100 to 200 copies of Unfulfilled Desires in, dog bite, Rudy taco stain condition, all the way to near mint to mint. But more importantly, that doesn't really mean shit. More importantly, as the probably largest holder of sealed Mirage booster boxes, sealed product of Mirage in known existence, in the hundreds of sealed product of boxes and decks, I don't think this is a long-term catalyst. I want it to be. I wish that this was like a tipping point for Mirage and reserve lists, and this is like the beginning of the bull market, because that would be awesome. Because again, I have a tremendous financial incentive for it to be. I just don't think this is that big of a deal. That is my attitude. I just don't think this is the tipping point of anything major. Because I know every time after I do a video like this, the next wave of questions and the next follow-up videos that you guys are going to want me to do is, Rudy, is this enough to move the market? Are we finally going to have the bear market come to an end in vintage Magic the Gathering? And again, as being one of the largest vintage sealed product and vintage raw cards, graded cards, everything, being one of the largest holders in existence, I would love to say yes, because if it swings up, I will make literally, I don't even know, 8 figures in profit. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think if you want a larger macro vintage market move, we're going to need more impactful positive news or more impactful market event that causes repricing on a lot of cards. Okay. Similar to the negativity of Magic 30, it was such a negative nuclear taco bomb that just wrecked Magic 30. Wrecked the vintage market because of Magic 30. That was such a big event. That's the type of positive news we would need to have a similar upward bull market. And as I told you all, if you love the old cards, including Unfulfilled Desire, including the Mirage, including Urza's, including ABU, Four Horsemen, use these times to continue to accumulate, buy the cards you love, collect the cards you love, invest in the cards you love, and enjoy the journey of it all. Time is finite, and remember, time is the item where everything matters. The more time that goes by, the higher the probability that markets reprice, attitudes change, cultures change, our perspectives change, tacos taste different, Rudy loses more hair, and you know what? You cannot predict it. But I think the Unfulfilled Desire thing, it's a nice attention thing. This is a great moment to add attention to old Magic, and because now people, for the first time in months, are like, yeah, Rudy, Unfulfilled Desires, it's a reserve list card. Are we going to have activity in reserve list? Like, just the fact it's reserve list, it does bring attention to it. But like I told you all before, until I see the Game Peace Army individuals start rallying together, they combine all their large vibrating pitchforks into one giant suction cup, one pitchfork, and we see the internet mob yelling at Wizards to abolish the reserve list, cards are too expensive, unplayable, reprint this, until we have not seen that. There is no evidence that the Game Peace Army is angry. They're making all the social media posts. They're thumbs upping and twirling their little like buttons. Until we see that happen, I do not think a major bull market in old cards is sustainable. I do not believe in as much. Hey, I'm the guy holding the Mirage cards and Vision cards. I'd love for Unfulfilled Desires to change everything. I do not think this is a real deal. I think this is a flash in the pan. It's a card that there's a ton of supply. I mean, even with this little buyout, okay? Sure, it's $20, $30, $40, depending what condition you want. But, I mean, there's still a ton listed. And over the next 30 days, you're going to see hundreds of copies listed. And the hundreds of copies listed are going to be more than the entire amount sold. And the amount of supply is going to surpass the demand, and it's going to squish it down. That is what I think is going to happen. So you have to take these moments, take a step back, and ask yourself, what caused the spike? Is the type of event a big enough deal where long-term the price is going to be able to hold. Anything can move any price. I can go on TCG Player. I can move the price of any card or product I want. But that's not really relevant. It doesn't mean anything unless I go to all the major vendors, all the major online stores, and I click that buy list button, and I see unfulfilled desires buy listing instead of $1, $2. And now if I see all the buy lists, the top 5, 10 major stores around the United States, and that buy list moves on unfulfilled desires from $2 a card up to $20, $30, $40 a card for a buy list, that's a different fucking conversation. I will make a follow-up video, and I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute. The stores are willing to put big money behind this, and they're willing to say, no. This is the new line in the sand. We want this card at this price because everybody's demanding we sell it for this. Now, if we see a recalibration like that, whole different conversation. I just don't see it happening. As exciting as I wish this was a really big deal, as exciting as I was really hoping that, oh my God, a reserve list card spiking, something new happened. Wait, who did it? Oh, the cool kids, where everybody watches, the approved Wizards people, the perfect, they're like the angels over there. Oh man, I wonder what it's like to be them. Jealous Rudy is saying, I don't think it's sustainable. That's all. The type of individuals who watch that type of content, who run the TCG Player and buy a card based on that, they move the needle, but those are the individuals that they're not going to buy excess copies. They're not going to support the higher market price. These are just people who bought some of the cards because they wanted to play the deck they saw from some famous people on YouTube. And that's great. That's cool. You know what? I'm jealous. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to literally dress up and I'm going to be just like them and I'm going to buy the same card. But I just don't think it's enough to move the needle and hold that needle and reprice the whole C level and reprice the market with buy lists, higher levels, retail. It's just one deck in one video where they talk about that one card. That's not enough to flare the entire market for reserve lists. It's not enough to move the market for sealed product and Mirage. And it's not enough where in 6 months, anyone's going to say, oh my God, unfulfilled desires. Is that still $50? Is that 40? Is it played or damaged or dog bite at 30? Is it still worth that? Because I remember I saw a video 6 months. Like, no, that's not going to happen. We've seen it too many times. And before I end the video, the difference, I want to say one thing. So for example, when I bought a lot of Bizarre Baghdad's years ago, I didn't put them back in the market. And I just wanted the card, as many as possible, because it was a passion project. Okay? Number 2, when we saw Scars of Mirrodin, the sealed boxes from $300, $400 a box, jump to $1,000 a box. Similar to Kaladesh, right? Because of the unbanning of Mox Opal or something. When we look at a situation where Scars and Mirrodin boxes were $300, $400 popped to $1,000, and guess what happened? Barely any boxes were listed. In the repricing back down, it's still like $700 a box. So on that situation, do you see the difference? Scars and Mirrodin went from $300, $400 like Kaladesh. Kaladesh shot to $1,000. Scars and Mirrodin shot to $1,000. Kaladesh fell back to $455. Scars and Mirrodin held in the 700s plus. The difference is the quantity of supply, the value of the item, the public's perception, and how many are actually out there, and how many people actually bought the product. And right now, there's very little people buying Kaladesh at $500 a box. That's why the price is soft. Not as bad as it was a year ago, but it's still nowhere near the peak. Where you compare that to a Bizarre Baghdad, all-time high of $3,000 a card maybe, and what's Bizarre now? $2,000, $2,300, depending on condition. And then Scars Mirrodin peaked at $1,000, and it's still like $700 plus tax. And that's for like a couple boxes before it goes higher. So you can see the difference on single cards. And maybe we should do a further in-depth video. It's been so long since we've talked about reserve lists. And we analyze the old reserve list cards all the way back to 9 years ago when we had the very first reserve list buyouts from that dude named Craig. I don't remember his last name or what he looked like, where he bought the Moat from Legends. He did the very first buyout, which sparked the revolution in the industry. And he bought like 15 copies, 20 copies of Moat, English Moat from Legends. And he paid like $200 a card. And after that moment, it never went back to $200 a card. It spiked to $400, $600, $800, and it retraced back to 3, 4, 500, but it never went back to 200. Now, you look at some of the other cards. The Great Pyramid Scheme. Remember the pyramid buyout? Spiked it way up, all the way back down, like nothing ever happened. And you can go through this. The Silex. God, there were so many of them at the time. There were so many of these single card spikes, and it's fascinating to see the ones that hold versus the ones that completely unravel and nothing ever happened. And if you really don't have the depth and knowledge and history in this market, a good rule of thumb is if it's a buyout type card that's not really a tier 1 monster that takes a lot of money, it's usually going to soften back up when the newness dies off. And if you look at, and again, cards like Ice Age, Fallen Empires, Homelands, I mean, these sets have a lot of reserve list cards. Alliances, one of my favorite set. All these reserve list cards, almost every one of these at some point in time in the last decade has had a buyout attempt, and it's failed 99% of the time. So in these moments of excitement where everybody wants unfulfilled desires, understand, put an alarm on your phone for 6 months, 1 day, 69 minutes from now, and I assure you, you'll be able to buy unfulfilled desires back at a normal price. My opinion, right now, played cards are $30. Mint condition unfulfilled desires, $50, maybe higher by the time you watch this. My opinion, I don't think it's sustainable because it's a flash in the pan moment. I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong and it goes higher and goes crazy, that's going to affect me in a very positive financial way because of Mirage and the sealed product. I just don't think it is. And that's why I think people should be careful. That's all. Have a great day.